Thank you. It's recording now. Okay, so this is MySQL Workbench. For those of us using MySQL, this is MySQL Workbench. Once you open it, put your password, it takes you to a place like this. Now on the left are different database, right? So I have this database Circular, and under it is the table where I have different tables. Now I wrote the first query. I wrote the first query to view the first 5 rows. To view the first 5 rows, and it brought an output. Now I want to write another query that would bring out all the fields where the last name is Davis, and I run this. Now what I'm trying to
Please,
explain here
can you
is,
maximize your screen? Sorry to interrupt. Can you maximize your screen? As in so tiny.
sorry about that, it's just that I can't zoom in more than this. So probably on your own, if you're using your PC or your phone, you can try zooming in on that end. I can't zoom in more than this. So zoom in on your own end. Okay, so I just ran this, and you see that the previous output has been cleared off. Though it might be in the history, but it has been cleared off, meaning that you can only see one output at a time. One output at a time, right? And it's not probably good for reporting. Reporting is probably when you make findings, I can see it. Next line I can see it, and the rest of them. So here now, if you are working from here, it's fine. But then you'll be having one result at a time, and probably want to save it as anything, you save it. But right now, I want to show us how we can also write the same queries on our Jupyter Notebook, how we can connect to this database, then query the same table. So I'll go to our Jupyter Notebook. Okay. Alright, so for MySQL, there are two ways we can connect to this database. One, we can use the client, that is the MySQL connector, and we can use the SqlAlchemy. Now, there are different, I'll actually tell you why, which one works with which one and which one doesn't work with the other one. Now, if you're using SqlAlchemy to connect to MySQL database, so here's how you write it. Okay. I'll say from SqlAlchemy import create engine. Create engine. Okay. Then system is beginning to make some noise I don't like. You say engine. Now this is a variable, it can be anything, but I just choose to call my own engine is equals to create. Please, I'm going to actually shut this down. We've all seen this place, right? We've seen how the database management system is. And we've seen how when we run the first code, it brought an output. We run the second one, it brought an output. Now I'm saying here it's only going to present one output at a time. So here is how it looks like. Right now on the other side, I'm going to connect to this database and then to this table. So I'm going to actually shut this down because my system is beginning to run slow. So here is how this environment is. Now on the other side, I'm connecting to this database and I'm connecting to this table. Now here are the login details before I shut it down. Maybe if you are not sure what is your username, and obviously you should know your password. You come to where you have this session. a second. You come to where you have this session, click on it. It will show you your connection details, your host, your name, login user, which is root, and just this. The details you actually need here is your login details and your port. So it will show you this, right? It will show you this. So basically, this is what I have to show you for this MySQL database management system. Okay, so remember, you click on session if you don't know your username, or if you have two or many instances, anyone you click on. For instance, if I click on this is actually another different server. So you see, for here is my own login details for this particular instance. It's the rich and some other details, localhost and the port. Right, these are the database I have. Right, so I'm going to close this. Now here is where I'm going to connect to that database I just showed you. So I'll say engine, create engine. Okay. Now this is me using SqlAlchemy to connect to that MySQL database. Alright, this is create engine. Okay. So it takes the connection string. It starts with the dialect. This dialect can be SQL Server, PostgreSQL, MySQL, SqlAlchemy, and the rest of them. So we want to connect to the MySQL database. So this dialect is MySQL. The next thing it takes is the username. So for mine it's root, which I showed you on that session. Then the password. So here is my password. You put in your password here. Then the host, is it a remote database or is it on your local PC? Here's where you specify your host. So right now it's the local host that's on our PC. Then after you specify this, the next thing is the name of the database you want to connect to. So remember, it was circular. So here is the connection string, the dialect, the type of SQL you want to connect to, then this, the username, the password, the host. If it is a remote database, this place will be a remote server link. We'll get to see that one as we progress, not today. Then the name of the database. So this is the connection string. I'll run this. All right. So we all know that in order for us to write, if we want to use SQL Magic, which I showed us in the project before last, we need to load the SQL kernel. So I'll say percentage load extension SQL. Then after that, I'll initialize this.
Hello, please. What is between engine and create? I don't know.
Excuse me, say what? Hello. Okay. Alright, so I think I've already loaded this before. So that is why it's saying reload extension.
Hello, good morning. Please, what is between engine and create?
They are not separate. The both of them are joined together. Create engine. We are trying to create like an engine where we'll be running our query from. The engine is having your database, your server, your database, your username, your login details. So that's the engine we are creating. So here is how you use SQL to do it.
So
SqlAlchemy. Alright, I've loaded the ipython-sql and I've established this. Please, you guys, you just hold on. Let me just probably once I'm done, I'll give us time to ask questions so that I can actually achieve something. Alright. So if I want to write a query now, I've connected to that database and everything is okay. So if you're using SqlAlchemy, you can actually use SQL Magic and at the same time use the pandas way of reading your query. So I'll first of all use the SQL Magic. Okay. So you see that we can now write that same query I ran on the other side, we can run it here. And you can also like run other queries and have the results still displayed. I'm coming. Okay, so here let me write the second query. Select all from actor where okay. Yeah. So here now you have that flexibility of having your results always there for maybe review or reference or anything. So I've written two different queries and I can see the same results on a Jupyter Notebook. So this is the SQL way of connecting. You create an engine that connects to your database by saying importing from the SqlAlchemy the engine. Inside the engine, you put in the dialect, your username, your password, the host, is it a remote or a local host, and then the name of your database. Then after that, you load your SQL kernel so that you can run SQL queries. Then this second line is me initiating this engine, more like initializing it by writing the $ engine.url. Okay. Then here I wrote a query. Now I'm using SQL Magic. I'm selecting all from actor. Remember the actor table we saw on the MySQL Workbench. Limited to 5. And here was the second query we wrote. And we have the output. So here now you can continue writing, doing whatever you want to do, analysis and the rest of them. The output will always be there and you'll be seeing it. Now if I want to use, maybe you want to do more, maybe after the output is here like this, you want to visualize it. And you know that probably with Python or maybe take it to your Power BI, there's a way you can connect your Power BI to your SQL database. That's also something we'll look at, but not today. But let's say you want to use Python in visualizing this output, meaning that you probably want to read out your results using pandas. Then from there, you use any visualization tool you want to. So if I want to use pandas to read this result, my point is you can write both SQL magic and you can also use pandas way of reading SQL queries. So I will say I've already imported pandas. So we all know how it's being written. You start with a query equals to, okay, so you say select all from actor limits 5. Then you say pd.read SQL query. Then you pass in the query. Remember how we used to do, you pass in the query and the connector. So right now our connector is the engine. Is this engine. So that's what we are passing in here. Then we run it. So now it's a data frame. It's a data frame, and you know that from here you can do whatever you want to do, maybe with Python, visualize, or any other further analysis you want to. But then you can use pandas to read it. So this is now like a data frame. This is actually a data frame, sorry. This is a data frame now. So you can use both SQL magic to write, and you can also use pandas to read from there. Now, lastly, let me just show us another way of connecting to that database before I take questions. So if you are using the MySQL connector, here's how you write it. Import MySQL dot connector. Okay, I'll say my DB is equals to MySQL dot connector dot connect. Then you pass in your connection strings. You start with the host. My host is a local host. Then your username. Mine is Telrich. Okay, I think I use root for this. Let me use the other one. So here is just username. It can be any of them. I have 2 instances or servers. So one of them is username is Telrich. So the host, the username, the password. The password. Then the database you want to connect to. So it's Sakila. Right, that's it. So the thing with this one is you can't use SQL magic on this. You can't use SQL magic here. If you try it, it's going to, I think, give you an error. So let's say select all from this is still working with the previous one, but I know very well that you can't use SQL magic if you are using this way of connecting. It won't work. But then if you are using this connection string, you can also read it with pandas. Read it with pandas. But now your connector is not the engine, but rather my DB. So it works too. Let me confirm that again. Yeah, you can't use the SQL magic. If this is how you're connecting to your MySQL database, you can't use SQL magic in this method. It will ask you to use the SqlAlchemy way. Even with pandas, it's warning me that the one pandas supports is the SqlAlchemy connectable way. So which is the first one I just showed you. So it brought out this, but it will work. But then it's just letting you know that SqlAlchemy is the compatible one with pandas. But here's how you can still connect to your database and write your queries and run it. Okay, so that's it for MySQL. Questions before I go into Postgres? Humphrey, go ahead.
Okay, in the where I used MySQL connector. Okay, number one, the first question: will it only work with MySQL, or it can work with other SQL databases like
I'm not hearing you
SQL
clearly,
and
Humphrey.
Postgres?
I'm not hearing you clearly.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, the first question I'm asking: is it possible? Okay, in the MySQL connector, is it only that I can only connect it with MySQL, or I can use other databases like Postgres and SQLite? Number
No,
two,
you can
you said
connect
that.
to other different database. I'm sorry, other different SQL flavors, not just MySQL.
But you import another one, not MySQL.connector, the one that used in number 9, in chunk number 9.
The thing is, I'm not hearing you clearly. Can
Okay,
you
in
write
chunk
your
number
question
9.
on the message, um, the chat message on the meeting? Maybe I'll see it from there. Please, if you have question, just raise your hand up so that I'll call you. Michelle.
My question is, though I'm using Postgres anyhow, but just in case I want to use MySQL, will you have the password already, or you create your own password?
Okay, so when you are installing MySQL, there will be a place that will ask you for password, just the same way they asked you for Postgres when you were installing it. You will set it up there. So it's the password you set when you are installing it, or when you are creating a new server. It's the password that you created that you used. Exactly.
I hope you can hear me.
Okay,
Yes, it
Humphrey.
is, but I didn't for Postgres. We didn't create any. There was no. I wasn't asked for any password when I was creating it.
No, I know Postgres very well. Postgres will ask you for they'll ask you one when you are installing it. Then
That was like
second,
last month, so it's possible I've forgotten anyhow. So I can't remember
so
for the
I
password.
know very well they will ask you for it when you are installing. Then also when you open the application for the first time, they even ask you to create a master password. That one is like a general password for all your servers. Then for individual servers, it will have different passwords. So you,
Okay.
yeah. Humphrey, I'm still waiting for your question on the chat message. Adelami, what's the question? Go on.
Okay, thank you very much. I joined a bit late, so there's something I want to understand. Under the second line, we have create engine equals to create engine, MySQL, whatever. I want to know how you got the what's it called, the the path, the path you pasted. So if
Okay.
I'm working on MySQL, how will I get the path?
Okay, I
I
understand
hope
you.
you understand my
Yeah, I
question.
understand you.
Okay.
So first of all, this create engine is one of the modules in SqlAlchemy, right? It's like a home base for your database, right? It's like the home base for your database. Now this directory is not actually a directory. These are connection strings. The first one here is the dialects of your SQL. Here can be PostgreSQL, MySQL, like in this case, SQLite, SQL servers, and the rest of them. If you read the documentation of SqlAlchemy, you will see different connection strings for each SQL dialect or flavors it's compatible with. You will see the different connection strings. So it's always the dialect. When I mean dialects, the different flavors. The username, in this case, mine is root. Mine is root. Okay, look at it. Okay, this is just an example they gave. So it's always the dialect, the username, the password, then the host. Is it a remote database or a local host? Then the database. So that's just what is inside here. I think Humphrey has dropped this question. Why do we need to add an SQL database to our code on the notebook? Also, do you directly the dataset into the notebook, or is it from MySQL you get dataset? Okay, so Sakila is actually one of the popular public data set and database, and I'm not sure. I think it comes with MySQL, like the default one. I can't really recall. It's been long. I actually opened it. But then Sakila is actually, yes, I think it's one of the popular database public, right? And to be honest, I don't know how. Maybe I was the one that puts it there. But if you can't find it on MySQL on your own MySQL, okay, that means I'm the one that probably puts in mine here, probably imports it, right? So if maybe you want to create a new database, you can do that, and there are options to bring in different kinds of files, CSV, and the rest of them. We'll actually see how to do that in PostgreSQL today. MySQL was just me showing you how to connect to it. Okay, about adding SQL database to your code on notebook. I actually just showed you, like, now I'm not saying it's compulsory for everyone, right? I'm not saying it's compulsory. So the whole thing is, we are data analysts. Yes, okay, your boss may give you simple tasks, maybe generate something, and you can use the database management system, probably generate that result. Maybe you ask you to get details of people that details of this particular person, Davis, or people that are just Davis. You can actually write this on your database management system, that is the MySQL Workbench. Once it has come up, you just export the results as maybe a CSV file or Excel file and send it to your boss. That's fine. That one works. But when it comes to project building like this, I've seen several people write different queries in maybe in a script and post it out there, or maybe they'll just screenshot their workbench and show you the different queries. And the way it's arranged is just queries, 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 no result. Or even though the result is there, it comes as a picture and the rest of them. So the point is using the database management system. When it comes to reporting, it's not presentable. You saw that when I ran this, the output came quite fine. The output came out quite fine. But the moment I ran this, the second line, this one was no more there. This one came up, meaning that you can only view one result at a time. So why I'm actually showing us how to use it in Jupyter Notebook is the flexibility, in the sense that I can see this query here, the first result. I can go to another cell, write another query, and see that same result. I can also go to another cell, like continuously. I will end up having all the results I've written so far. Without you now, if you're using that workbench, if you probably want to go back and see the first 5 columns, you will need to comment your latest entry, comment it, and run the other one. So it's not that flexible. So that's why I'm just showing us how you can write those same queries you write there in your Jupyter Notebook and use it for report writing and findings and the rest of them. And then once you are done with this, you can actually export it as a PDF or whatever format, and then put it. This alone self can be on your GitHub as a Jupyter Notebook, which you are aware of, right? Then if you probably want to send it to your boss, you may probably want to use the pandas way of reading this. Once you read this, you use pandas to CSV or to Excel and export that result. So that's why I'm showing you how you can add a SQL database to your notebook. Humphrey would see for PostgreSQL. I'm just answering questions for my SQL. Once I'm done taking the questions,
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
I can
Hello?
hear you. I can hear you, Benson. Benson, no, no. We will get to see
Hello, can you hear me?
PostgreSQL. Benson, we can hear
Okay,
you.
thank you very much. The question okay. So I never forget the question I want to ask. The question I wanted to ask is, I was going to, the thing don't skip me off sincerely. Carry on, when I remember I will ask again.
All right. Adelami. Adelami, your hand is up.
Okay, thank you. I'm thinking of installing a database. Like I said the other time, I joined this. Do you have a sample already prepared database already that we can upload on the database? And which of the vendors do you advise we can install
Okay. So first
for
of
the
all,
SQL
I get
or
your
the
question.
MySQL? Yes.
I get your question. So first off, this is just an introductory class, right? And it was actually as a result of the project we want to do after this, and that will be on PostgreSQL. So in creating a database, if I am going to show you if I can do it by today, it will be on PostgreSQL, not on MySQL. Probably MySQL is something I'll consider next, right? So that's it for that. Then when it comes to what database you can learn, what SQL you can learn, I'm not going to choose for you, but what I'll tell you is PostgreSQL is like a common base, right? It's a flavor in which if you know other flavors like SQLite, SQL servers, MySQL, Oracle, it will be easy to blend into this environment. That's why DataCamp is using it, and most professionals will tell you to learn PostgreSQL. Then it will be easy to blend in into other different flavors, right? We have common similarities, though there are differences, right? But then PostgreSQL is like a common base. But then again, if you can learn more than, like me now, I know few of MySQL and I know SQLite and I know PostgreSQL, right? So if you can learn more, maybe one or two of them, probably Postgres should be one of them. I think you'll be able to blend it into other flavors. So that's it.
Yes, I'm back to my question. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, I wanted to ask, is there anything I need to download from my Jupyter Notebook site to do this connection? Or once I get my Jupyter Notebook, I'm good?
Okay, so usually before I host any project or any class, I send out a, a post with the requirements, things you need to install for you to be able to work on the same projects I'm working on. So I already sent that out, what you need to have if you are working with PostgreSQL, what you need to install. If it is MySQL, you have what you need to install. I already sent that out. Maybe after the meeting, you chat me up and I'll send it to you. Or you join the group WhatsApp. Join the group WhatsApp.
I already have my MySQL. I have Jupyter too. So I'm just
Okay.
asking if there's other things.
That's what I'm saying. There are requirements you need to install, like the MySQL connector and MySQLdb, and then the ipython. I don't know if I can get that now. I don't want to open many applications. Or after the class, you message me. Or if someone can actually go to the group chat and get the requirements and maybe post it
Okay.
on the
Okay.
message for him.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Any other question before I go?
But you know that sometimes you know that sometimes even seeing those things, even how to do it is also is also needed.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
I understand you. Okay. So if okay, here's what is happening. If you see the requirement, I usually put it in the form of pip install. If you are using Anaconda, right? If you are using Anaconda, that means you've installed Anaconda on your PC. You would have what we call Anaconda prompt.
Okay.
Anaconda prompt. So that's where you do installation for your Anaconda.
Okay.
This is it. So what you need to do is once you open it, instead of writing, let's say pip install pandas, instead of writing pip, for instance, pip install pandas, you would write conda install pandas. This is what you will write if you are using
I can't see where you
Anaconda.
are typing. Okay.
This is what you will write if you are using Anaconda prompt. This is what you will write if you are using a terminal or your conda prompt. I'm sorry,
Okay.
your command prompt. This is what you will write
Okay.
if you are using Anaconda.
Okay.
Yes. So this is how you install packages. You write it on those interface, or you can also install it directly on your Jupyter Notebook. All you need to do is just put in an exclamation mark before the pip, like this. This is how you install a package directly from your Jupyter Notebook. Put an exclamation mark before the pip install. It will install those packages.
Okay.
Alright.
I have pandas. I have pandas.
I'm just giving a scenario, like
Okay.
Any other question on MySQL, the connecting to it before I go into PostgreSQL? Does anyone have any question before I proceed to my PostgreSQL? Alright. Now I want to show us how we can connect to PostgreSQL. Here is my PostgreSQL application. I'm using an old version, so don't mind this. You will probably download the latest one. You are good. You are also good. Now, if you open it, if it is new, it will ask you to generate a master password. If it is not the first time you are using it, it will ask you to put that general password you already set. So let's go ahead and write now. So once you put in that password, you'll be connected to your environment. This is how it looks like. This is my PostgreSQL. These are your different servers. Yeah, if one is just new, you only have this. This is something else I created. This is my remote database, which will end up with, it's what we're working with. Like when it comes to that time, you'll be connecting to this remote database. This is my Azure database. It's a remote database. Then this is the default one that came with PostgreSQL, and this is just another server I created on my own for a class I held some time ago. So these are different servers, right? So like if it is yours, you're probably going to have only this. Now if you click here, if it's locked probably, so you need to put in the password for that particular server. Looks like I've forgotten my password. Okay. So once you put in the password, it will open. To show this. Now the thing is, this database management system, right? The MySQL, PostgreSQL, and all of the rest database management system. I have Postgres, MySQL, SQLite, and the rest of them. There are some stuffs you'll be seeing that are actually not for us. Something like this, table space, login, and the rest of them. Most of these stuffs are for data engineers, like people that design database, create the pipelines, and the rest of them. They are the ones that mostly work with majority of the stuffs we do see here, right? You know that we as data analysts, what mostly you end up working in a bigger company, what they'll probably always be giving you is just login details. That connection strings you saw, those are your login details. You just get them, put them, depending on where you are writing your reports from, whether it's on Jupyter Notebook or on this environment. You just put in your login details, you access the database, and you write whatever you want to write. Now, if it's in that company, they have different level of access. These are some of them. They all have limited usage. There are some that you can't edit the database, some you can only read, some you can't query, and the rest of them. These are some of them. If you are a database administrator, you can actually create one yourself and maybe say, okay, for this particular group of people, just allow them to query my database. Maybe for this particular set of people, allow them to alter the database, maybe add in extra columns, extra tables. For this particular group of people, allow them to give other people roles and the rest of them. There are different ways. Those ones that actually works of data engineers and database administrators. So we data analysts, we won't, unless we want to learn, but then those are not actually the parts we're after. Our part is how to connect to it, query get our findings and results, then make presentation to the management or the executive people. Right. So my point is there are some stuff you will see here in this application, even with MySQL, that is not a must, you must know it. Right. Just know how to connect, write your queries, and some other advanced stuff like maybe alternate and the rest of it. So right now I have up to 9 database here. So yours is just going to be this. So these are different ones I created on my own. So yours is just going to be this. Okay, now I'm going to open this. So these are different stuff too. They all have their own meaning and functions. But where we are more concerned is where I'm taking you to. So once you open your server, open your database, choose any database if you have more than one. For now, I know that we all have this, which is the default one. Click on it, then go to schemas. Then under schemas, the public. Then under public, don't mind all these stuffs. Like I said, there are a lot of stuff you will see here. They are not really necessarily all for us. Where we are more focused on is where I'm taking us to. So your server, your database, you choose the database if you have more than one. Click on schemas. Then in the public section, go to tables. So I don't know, I think there is no table, I'm not sure. If someone is actually opening it, maybe the person will tell me if there are tables in his or her own PostgreSQL. Because I think there are, I don't know, I can't really remember. But if there isn't, that means you don't have any table. And I strongly believe most of these I created them myself. So if you don't have any tables like this, it means your table is empty. It's empty. So mine, I actually have some data here, some tables, but they are not all related, but they're just different tables. So the same actors you saw on the other side, they are here. So this is it. Inside the table, you click on any table, it will show you the column constraints and the rest of them triggers. all these are data engineers works. Then under the columns you see different columns this table has. Okay, now if I want to query this table now, for instance, I'll right click on it, then I'll go to query tool, I'll click on query tool, and to open it as a tab. Okay, so here now is where you can write your query. Alright, so I'll say select all from actors limits. It's advisable you use limits if you don't know the volume of your data. If you have large volume, a query might end up running a longer time. Okay, so I'll just run this, or you press F5. So I'll have my results here. I think this is the same table I have on MySQL data, MySQL Workbench. Okay, it's not. So this is it. So it's the same, when I say limitations with PostgreSQL in terms of seeing more than one output, right? So this is it. I'll write another query. I'll say select all from actors where gender equals to female. I'll run this. So it's going to clear the previous output and present a new. I didn't limit this. Okay, we have 55 rows. So we all have this. Now the thing is, it's going to clear the previous results and give you the new result. Now it has that same limitations. You can't see the previous result. Now if I actually want to see maybe the first 5 rows from this table, I'll need to comment this and run this again. And then imagine if you are having many queries at a time, it becomes an issue, right? This is actually maybe your boss just give you something urgent. Go and get me list of females in our company. You just come and write this once you are done. You think there should be an option to export. Okay, this is it. There's an option to save the file. I think we have CSV. Okay, it comes as a CSV automatically. So you now then save it, and let's see if we have any other option. Okay, we don't have. So you can save it as a CSV and send it to your boss. So this is it. That is also one of the limitations. So right now I'm going to go to the other side and show us how we can connect to the same database and query the same table. So I'll go back here. Okay. So first of all, show us using. I'll actually send us this notebook. I was going to read all this, but it's going to take us time. This is just me explaining SQL connection and the PsyCop2 connection and the rest of them. Okay. So I'll drop this on the Google Drive. You can reference it later. So yeah, I'm doing the SQL connection. So it's the same pattern. Let me just copy and paste. Let me merge this. So I'll just copy everything at once. Okay. So now I'm connecting to a PostgreSQL. It's the same syntax. I already have created this engine, so no need for me to write it again. No need to write it again. Sorry. But then I'll leave it since this is the one that came before the other one down. So I'll just let it be. Now the connection string will change. The dialect is no more MySQL. the dialect or flavor is now PostgreSQL. Now my username is Postgres. That is always the default unless you change it. Then my password is, I'm not sure it's this. I think it's just this. Okay. It's a local host. Then we are connecting to, what's the name of that database again? Postgres. The name of database is Postgres too. So I'll just clear this. Okay, so everything is okay. Let me just put this to reload. Alright. So it's the same pattern. Your dialect, the username, password, and the host, the name of the database. So right now I'm connected to it. So I can use SQL Magic and say select. Now the thing is, okay, select all from actors, limit 5. Okay, we'll just run this. So we have that output. Now you can write another query, as many as you want. So mind us, if I'm using 1%, it means I want to write on a straight line. If I'm using 2%, it means I want to write on multiple lines. That's just the difference. So select all from actors. Okay. Where gender equals to female. Okay. It gave us 55. Let's limit it to 10. You run this and you have your result. So you can write as many as you want. So quickly, I'll just show us the last one, how to connect using the Postgres library, Python library. Scikit-2 is a Python library that provides a Postgres SQL database adapter for the Python programming language.
Well
Yeah,
done,
good
sir.
evening.
Sir,
I'll attend to you. Just give me some seconds. Let me run this off. Yeah. So it allows Python developers to interact with Postgres SQL database from within their Python applications. So this is how you want to use the Postgres SQL library. So you say import cycle 2. Okay. Then you say my DB. This is a variable, it can be anything, not necessarily my DB. So it's a cycle dot connect. Excuse me. Then your connection strings, you have even from the libraries you can see some of them. Database is equals to this, user, Postgres, password, secret, or keyword arguments, or a mix. So I'll just briefly show us that. I'll say my host is a local host. If it is a remote database, you put the remote link there. Okay. Then my database database I'm connecting to, which one did I query? Postgres. Okay. User is equals to Postgres. This is the default. Unless you change it, then password lastly. Alright, so this is it. Once you're done, you run it. It's connected to that database. So like I said earlier on, it's the same thing applicable here. You can't use SQL magic for this kind of connections. If you're using the library connector, you can't use SQL magic. SQL magic is only compatible with SqlAlchemy way of connecting, which was the first one I just showed you. And okay, I didn't actually write for this. If you want to use pandas too, you can also do it by saying so you just convert this to a query. I'll remove this. I'll say query is equals to the three quotation, that's docstring. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so you now then say, let me change this to, okay, let me just leave it there. I'll just say pd dot read SQL query, pass in the query and the connector. The connector is now the engine. Our previous project we used CONN. Here I'm using engine. So this thing can be anything. This is just a variable. So this is our connector. So that's what we are passing in. So what pd read SQL takes in is the SQL query. If you read the function, it takes in the SQL statement, the connection, and some other parameters. Okay, so I'll pass in engine, and then I'll run this. So to present the same output, but now in a data frame. And if I want to maybe visualize, I can from here proceed to visualizing the whole result. Okay. Now for this type of connection using the Python library, you can't use SQL magic. I tried it didn't work. So that's why I'm telling you can't use it. So the only one you can use with this is the pandas way of reading SQL. So after running this, I can now then say, okay, let me just copy this to avoid writing extra stuff. Control A, Control C. Okay, so now the engine now, which is the connector, I'll change it to what? My DB1, and then we are good to go. So this is another way of connecting to that same database. Here it is. Though it shows this warning, but you can always ignore a warning and proceed. But if I should use, obviously as you saw when I used the SQL way of writing it, we had no error. So this is it. So basically I've shown you for MySQL 2 ways of connecting to the database and 2 ways of querying your database. For PostgreSQL, I've shown you the 2 ways of connecting to it and 2 ways using the SQL magic and the pandas way to query your database. Question? Raise your hand up if you have any question.
Sir, well done, sir.
Yeah, go on.
I want to ask that we did not mention table. Is it that we must have loaded the table in the database?
Yes, this is actually
Before
me. This is actually me working with an existing table.
Okay.
Yeah, if probably after the questions, we still have some time. I can show us how to we'll probably create a database we are going to use for our next project. That's after I've answered the questions I need to answer. We'll create the database we are going to use for our next project, and we'll see how we do it. To heap. And Rhonda, just do you have any other question to heap? Hello, to heap. Do you have any other
What,
question?
what about engine? I saw you wrote engine like engine. I don't know did it work when you are trying to put a password and so that engine. I
Okay.
don't understand.
I actually explained it earlier on in the MySQL part. So create engine, mind us, all this some of this stuff is something we can not just stop here. Maybe after the class, just research more on it. So create engine is one of the modules in SqlAlchemy project, and it's the home base for your database. It's actually where you use to establish connection to your database. It's a package that helps you. Sorry, I just said package. It's a module, or is it a function? This is a function, I think. Okay, it's a function that helps you connect to your database. It establishes that connection. That's what the create engine does. I hope I've answered your question. If it's still not clear, maybe you have to research
Thank
more.
you. Thank you.
Alright. Michelle.
Please, I have a lot of questions. I wrote out some. I wrote some out while you were showing us the
Okay.
PostgreSQL method. But
Alright.
before we go there, the last one we did, why did we change my DB one? What does it represent? As in, how did it come about? You know,
Okay.
I understood how
Hello, Michelle. Hello, Michelle. We can't hear you. You just stop being audible. Hello, Michelle.
Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you
Hello,
now.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. You are referring to this, right?
That very last query. Yes, the very last one. You change it to my DB one. Why what does that, how were you able to come about that my DB one? Is it like my database, my first database, or what does it mean?
So you just said it. It means my database, my database. But mind you, this is just a variable. I can write it to be anything. I just choose it to. And I actually wrote my DB one, so that it won't be the same with the my DB I use for my SQL. Remember when we were doing my SQL, I used my DB. Yeah, I used my DB one. Now, that's not even the case. This is a variable. It can be anything. Another person can choose to write this as connection. That's CONN. Another person can choose to write anything. This is just a variable. It can be anything. So don't. I only use the word my DB so that you know that it means my database. But then my point is this is just a variable. It can be anything. Another person can.
I understand it's
Okay.
a variable, but you know that the previous one you wrote when you were using the before
MySQL.
you did this cycle, yes, when you're using the MySQL, we used after the query you put engine. So okay, we understood that that was the name of the actual database that we extracted
Okay.
initially, right?
Okay.
So how did it now come about that in changing it, you now change it to my DB one? That's what I wanted to know.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
I don't understand
Uh,
what type cop
all
G2.
right. I think I understand your question. I think I understand your question. You're asking why I changed this instead
Yeah.
of engine to whatever variable I have in.
Yes.
So I'm
Yes.
showing you two ways of connecting to your database. I'm showing you two ways of connecting to your database. So the first one where I use create engine. This is the SqlAlchemy way of connecting to your database. Let me copy it and bring it down, then I'll comment it. I just showed you two ways of connecting to your database. Right. Now, if the difference
I
is
understand that
just,
part.
yeah, yeah, I am
As
coming.
in what you did,
I am
how you
coming.
did that first part. Okay.
So right now,
So
why I changed this. This is one way of connecting to your database. This is one way of connecting to your database, right? It's the same database we just connected to, but in two different ways. Now, the first one when I use query, creating engine here, and this is me querying from this method, querying from here. But when I use connection, this is me querying that database from this connection string. That's the difference. When I use engine, I'm I'm querying that database from this side of the connection. That's this engine, and you can see it's still the connection strings. That's why I used engine here in that first one. But here now this is another method of connecting to my database. So if I want to query from this method now, I'm passing in this variable here. So this one is for me querying this, while the engine one, the one that has engine here, is me querying that database from this side. I don't know if it's clear now. Michelle, is it clear now?
I understand that, but
Okay.
what I just want, okay, maybe I'm not asking the question well. Let me start from the foundation of it. When you started with, what's the difference between the using SqlAlchemy and using the Psycop G2?
Okay. All
As
right.
in, can they be used concurrently, or they are
You
totally
you
different,
you
or one
can
is for
you
Python
can
and one is for SQL?
okay. Let me throw more light on it. So first of all, you know that there are two ways of connecting to your database, right? You are aware of that.
Yes.
Okay. Now, it's not you are not going to use the two at the same time. You are going to use only one. Now I show you the limitations. If you are using the SqlAlchemy way of connecting, you have that flexibility of writing your query like this. You don't need pandas, you don't need Python. You just have that flexibility of writing your queries directly. As you can see, this SQL magic, you write it like this as many as you want and you get your results. You can't use sorry, you don't necessarily need to use pandas. You can write it directly as you are seeing now. That's for SqlAlchemy. SqlAlchemy also give you that flexibility of reading that same query with pandas if you want to. This is how you read, this is how you do it if you want to. You want to use pandas, maybe get your result into the Python environment and do maybe data, I don't know what you want to do, but you want to use pandas, get your result in, maybe work it in Python. This is how you use pandas, get it into pandas, and from here you proceed. That's what SQL gives. The flexibility of writing your query, just your query with SQL magic, no Python, no pandas, nothing is needed. Just directly on the Jupyter Notebook and it works very fine. Then if you want to include Python, that's through your pandas, it has that flexibility too. But for Psycop is a Python library that helps you do the same necessary connections, but you can't write SQL magic. You can't do this one. You can't write your SQL magic like this using that connection. Using that connection. You can't do this using that Psycop way of connecting. You can't write this. This is only compatible. Obviously, SQL magic only works with SqlAlchemy. You can't use it on any other type of connection. That is why as we ran this, it was giving us this warning that even the pandas that is even trying to present the output is only compatible with SqlAlchemy. So you can't use SQL magic on this method of connection. The one that only works is the pandas way of reading it, and even with the pandas, you are having a warning sign that it's not support. It only supports SqlAlchemy connectable engine or connection or database string or blah 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 to the rest of them. Please consider using SqlAlchemy. So I don't know if it's clear now.
Okay, let me just say something. Okay, so if I'm using SqlAlchemy, I should just focus on using that.
Yeah.
Then if I know I'm working with Python, then I should just ignore the SqlAlchemy altogether and use that cycle.
You can no no you,
cycle
no 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 no. You can still use Python with your SqlAlchemy now. This is it. See, see.
No, I
Okay,
understand. I understand
okay,
you can see
okay.
SqlAlchemy, but I'm just saying that as in I'm trying to understand the need. If we can use else, what then is the point of the cycle? Why stress myself going through that one?
Okay. So this is I understand you. This is a learning class, right? I'm just showing us the ways I
No, I
found like
understand. I understand. I'm just saying that
so
is it that in a particular situation, maybe I'm in an interview and then they say I must use that cycle. Is it for us to just know, okay, what you can use or
you just said one like one advantage. So you having an idea of both ways is not bad. Then you can choose to just focus on one, right? Then I'll even advise you use the SqlAlchemy since it's compatible with SQL Magic and the pandas who are reading it, and you have no one using that method. Just work with that. But then if you have the knowledge of Cycle, probably Cycle has its own advantage, which actually I don't know right now. You understand? It may have its own advantages, right? Maybe let's just say I don't know it right now. Maybe something it has that SqlAlchemy doesn't have. There could be something like that. But then just know that it's possible to connect with Cycle and it's possible to connect with SqlAlchemy. Maybe that's something you can actually go and find out. Maybe what Cycle has that SqlAlchemy way of connecting doesn't have. It's something you can research on.
thank you. This is my last question. Sorry, it was at the beginning when you used pgAdmin 4. Is it
Mm.
compulsory? As in, what's the difference between using the pgAdmin 4 and the Jupyter Notebook? Can I just since I've installed pip installed what I want to use? Is there any need for the pgAdmin 4 or it's compulsory that it's downloaded first?
Okay, so the thing is, let me give you a scenario. I'll say you need to download it if you don't have a remote database. Obviously, if you want to write a query, you are querying a database, right? So where is your database being held at? It's at your pg4 admin. Or if you have a remote database, then there's no need for this. You just need to connect to that remote database and write your query. But if you don't have a remote database, this is where your pg4 comes in, where you can create different local database for your work. You can create it from here. And not like you must create it from here, you can actually create a database from this site too. But then where are you going to host it? Like where is it going to be based in? That's where this stuff comes in. So even though you're creating it from this angle, you must have connected to this. Then whatever you're creating on the Jupyter Notebook will reflect on this side. So you need this. This is kind of necessary if you don't have a remote database. So this is a local, all these are local database on your local device. This is my remote database. This is the one that I don't need this. I can actually delete this application and then work with my remote database. So that's it.
But it seems that the pgAdmin is more of a website and not like an app or something.
No. This is an application. It works offline. It works offline. MySQL before admin, SQLite, Azure, and the rest of it. Once you have, obviously, applications work offline unless there are some things you need to do online that you now then connect to your database. Like updating it. I think updating it needs to connect to the. Okay, I know for MySQL you need to connect to the internet to update it, something like that. But this works totally offline. It's not online. All right. Any question? To hit your hand is up. Any question? Or any issue? Okay. Does anyone have any other question? What we are about to do next is the database we are actually going to work with our next project. We'll create it here, and I think we have time. We'll import the CSV. They have already sent us a link to the dataset, so we'll just see how to create it. I have it here already, but I'll show us how to do it. So any question before we get into that? All right, Humphrey.
Okay. I have just one concern. Could you share the documentation of Cycle, MySQL connector, and SqlAlchemy?
Is that I didn't get it. What was the question?
I wanted you to share the documentation of Cycle
Okay.
or
You can actually search for that. I said I'll send the notebook after the class, for the write-ups. Okay, does anyone have any other question before we proceed? Okay, so quickly, we'll just say how to create a database and bring in a CSV file. So the file we are going to work with for our next project is data about international breweries, about drinks. So I'll just read it in here for us to see. Where do I start? Let me just go down to the last point. All right. So I'll just read the file here for us to see. All right. So this is the data we'll be working with in our next projects, like I think our next class. So it's about international breweries. So we have the region, the month, the year, the sales rate, brand, unit cost, unit price, quantity, and the country. Now, let's just look at the data and inspect it visually. You can see that this is a numerical column. Like, so looking at data type now. This is text, strings, integer, strings, integer, integer, and strings. So this is the CSV file. So right now it's a CSV file. Now we are going to create a database. When we create it, we are going to create a table that this information will later on be populated. We populate the table with. So quickly, how do you create a database? Now when you come to this place, you right click on it, you click on create, then you click on database. So here is where you write the name of the database. So I'll just call it International Breweries. I have it already, so I'll just make it short. Okay. Leave this one. This is actually your username. You just leave that one. I think definition, like I said earlier on, there are some things that are here that are actually not for us. So all these ones, you don't need to do anything. This one is not for you. These two is not for you. All these stuff are actually not necessary right now. Then the SQL is actually going to show you the syntax you would have written to create that database, maybe from a terminal point or from the Jupyter Notebook. This is actually what you will write to create this database we are just creating now. So it's just going to give you the syntax for that. So create database international breweries with the honor equals to this, encoding equals to this, connection limits -1. This templates like you can use it for another creating purpose. So this is just the syntax you would have written probably on a Jupyter Notebook or on a terminal. You know, we also work with database from terminals and all those command line. So this is it. So you don't necessarily need to do any other thing. Just put in the name and then click on save. It will save and it will come up here. So I have it here. Alright. Now I'll go to schema. Remember how we located the table? It's under schema public. Then you go to table. Right now it's empty. There is no table. There is no table. So I'm going to create a table now that will hold this information we just saw. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 10 fields. We have 10 fields. And we need to create the same columns and the same data types to hold this information. So I'll right click on this, click on create, click on table. So this dialog box will come up. Then here is where you give the name of the table. So I'll just call it brewery cells. So table names are always plural, while column names are always singular. Okay. So you don't need to do any other thing here. Now you click on columns. This is where you define the columns of your table. So we have 10 columns and you're going to generate 10. Now the thing is actually, I think this is one of the limitations I actually saw, or let's say limitation, more like a disadvantage. Maybe in the case scenario where you have a database that has let's say up to 50 columns, you will need to create those columns manually here before you can bring in this data. Right? So if you're lucky, you end up working in places that you don't need to create a table, the data is already there. You just access the database, and I think that is just what we mostly do as a data analyst, access the database. All this creates, in SQL we have the different types of SQL, the what's it called again, manipulation language, the query language, the transaction language, and the rest of them. I know that I think just two is for the analysts and the others are mostly for engineers, and this create statement are mostly also for the data engineers. So if you have 100 columns, you will need to create 100 columns here and denote them, right? So lucky for us, we just have 10 columns. So we are going to create 10 columns and specify the data types. So we'll start with the first one. So the first one is I wrote them out. We have the cell ID. Let's look at it again. Cell ID. Yeah, cell ID, region, and month. So once you click on this add, this will come up. So in PostgreSQL, your column names, obviously the standard way of writing column names are singular, lowercase, and no spaces. Use underscore. Okay. I even notice if you are trying to create a capital letters into change it to small letters by default. So we have cell ID. We have region. We will look at the data type after this. We have month. We have year. We have sales rate. We have brand. We have unit cost. We have unit price. We have quantity. And lastly, we have country. Alright, so those are the 10 columns we have. Now, for the data types, PostgreSQL has numerous or several kind of data types, so we'll just be saying a few of them. So for the sales ID, now sales ID, I don't know if you've noticed, this is obviously it's an ID, and this is like a primary key for this table. And then it's probably a foreign key in other table, but this is just one single table. So this is a primary key, and you know that they are all unique, and they have the same length. So I'm not going to use integer for this. I'll use a character, and we know that for character, the lengths are fixed. So I'll just say char, character. Default is 5. The length is also 5. Let's just leave this. The region I'll use a character variant. I can set this to 25. Length is actually the length of characters including space. So this can be 25. The month is character variant. Leave this as 25. These ones are not necessary. The year. Here I'll use small ints. Small integers are actually from the range of I think minus 50 something thousand to plus 30 something thousand. Then big ints are actually the values was actually merged when I checked it. They are in billions and trillions and zillions. Okay, small ints. The length is 4. Default is 4. Source rare. Character variant. Sorry. The brand character variant 25. Unit cost small int. Unit price small int. Quantity sold. This is quantity sold. Most times people leave this default as 255. So this default can be any value, but then you need to inspect your data and make sure that whatever value you are giving, it will cover the length of your values. So that's why most people they usually leave this. I think it's 255 or 225 just to be on the safer side. But then it's default. So you can actually just leave it empty. So this is it. Alright, so at DBMS, we have multiple tables. Maybe you are the one creating the database, the tables and all the stuff. We can then assign which column should not accept a null value. This is what this one is doing. If we say not null, meaning that this column will not accept any null value. If we want this one to be a primary key, this is actually where you set it. So we are not doing anything about that because we are just working with one table. Okay, so all these ones are same thing, is not for us. So this SQL will actually show us the syntax you would have written to create that table. I know most of us have created a table before. So you see create table, name of the table, the column name. Okay, this is highlighted in red. So these are keyword in PostgreSQL. So I think I'll have to change it. So the column name, the data types, and the default. Then this is actually to alter the table. If it already exists, it will alter it and make the necessary changes. So I'll go back and change this month and year. There are both keywords in PostgreSQL. So alright, so I'll just save this. So we have it here, Brussels. So if I want to query this table, right click on it, click on query tool. It will open on its own tab. So let's see. Obviously it's empty, but let's just write a query. So we have no output. We have an output, but our table is empty. So right now we are going to see how to import that CSV file and populate this table. So when you are generating this table, you must make sure your data types and everything matches what you are seeing here physically. If not, you are going to have errors. And you also make sure your table does not have missing values. Like if it has missing values, there is an option for denoting that. And just make sure you check everything well, so that once you are generating it, you know how you are generating it and what to assign as the data types. So to bring in that CSV file, I'll import it. I'll right click on this table. I'll go to import and export. I'll click on it. This is pet supplies, so hold on. Okay, that's international breweries. So this is where you locate the file on your PC. So let me go and find where mine is. So here is mine. I'll open it. So it's here. The format is CSV. We have three formats: binary and text. But what you are bringing in is a CSV file. Encoding is optional, but if your data has different encoding, this is where you specify it. So just leave that. Now this is actually where you specify the delimiter, and my data has a header. Mind you, this must be set if your data has a header. If not, if you don't set it, for instance, if you don't set that, it will consider this as a value, and then for the column in which you set as an integer, it will see this as a text and it will contradict. So if your data has a header, make sure you specify that. Okay. So this is it. Delimiter, we have different delimiters. We all know what this one does. Okay. This is a different option. What's using showing your escape. If you have an empty cell, most data they use NA as your empty cell, empty cell. Most they use NA, some null, and the rest of them. This is actually where you write what your null string is in your data. Okay. And these are the columns it is bringing in. Then this is where you specify a column that should not be null. Okay, so that one is not for us, so I'll just click OK. I think I have an error. Value too long for character 1. Okay, I have an error, so let me see how I can rectify that. So the error is the value is too long for character 1, and that is as a result of what I set as my data type. So these are the kind of issue you'll probably face when you are creating this creating a table. So you just need to be careful. So when I set the character, I did not set I didn't set the length of the character. Okay, so if you have an error on your table and you want to probably edit it, you right click on the table, then you click on properties. It will take you back to where you created the table and all the details. So I'll click on columns, then I'll set this to 5. The length of my cells ID is 5. So because I did not set it, it sets, they cannot be empty. I think so here cannot be empty, so it is set it to be 1. So I'll set this to be 5, then save it. Then let's try importing it again. Right click here, click on import. Time is almost up. Click on import, then I think every other thing are okay. Column header, okay, is on. So I just click OK. So it's successful. So if I run this query now, since I know it's populated with the values, I'll limit it and F5 to run it. So I now have an output. So for the data I gave to you guys, you create a database, name it whatever you want to name, go to schemas, go to table, create the table like you just saw, then import those values, then it will show here. So here you can actually write whatever you want to write, query, blah blah blah, and the rest of them. But now I'm going to go to the other side and connect to this new database I just created. So I would say, let me go back to the Postgres side. So I'll use SqlAlchemy for it. Okay, let's do it here. So what do we need to change? It's PostgreSQL, the user is correct, the password is correct. I just need to change the database from Postgres to International Breweries. So I'll change this. Okay, I think that's it. Then I'll run this. Oh, there's a mistake. Alright, that's okay. Then let's write a simple query. Hold on.
Hello, Richie. Hope we can get this video recording immediately, please, so that we can follow later.
Okay, I'll see what I can do about that. Alright, yeah, I heard you. Okay, so select all from the name of our table is what? Brew cells. So say brew cells. So let's filter it where country equals to Ghana. Or country equals to Nigeria. So let's limit it. right, let's run that. So we have our results. So this is that database we just created, and this is us querying that table we just created too. So Nigeria and Ghana only, the first 20 rows. So this SQL magic, if you want to use pandas, you know what to do. Put this in your query and use your read SQL query. So this is the data we'll be working with in our next project. So we're working from here, and let me just briefly show us how it's going to look like. Okay. So here it's just a tip of the iceberg. I think I sent the PDF. So we're querying the database from here. When we have the output, we just use Python and do small visualization, and then we make some writings. This is how the next project is going to look like. So we use SQL, write the query that database, then present the output as a visual and whatever you want to do. So that's just how the next project is going to look like. So it's good if you understand how to connect to that database and what to do. Okay, so that's it for today's class. I think we only have 5 minutes. So any question? Any question? Do everyone understand what just happened? It's question time. If you have any question, you raise your hand up and I'll give you the floor. Okay, Humphrey, go ahead.
Okay, I have a question about maybe it's about a database and a schema. Okay, can a database contain more than one schema?
Schema. Okay, schema is more like the pictorial view of your database. It shows how your database is in a pictorial view, showing you the connection in terms of primary keys and then the data types. So right now it's just one table. So it has nothing to do with schema at this point. So when you hear schema is just like a pictorial view of your database. It's a picture. It's a picture. I don't want to open any other application. It's a picture like most of us use Power BI now. If you go to the modeling site where it shows your connection from one table to the other, that view is the schema of your database. It's just showing you the different tables you have and how they are connected. You will see lines being drawn from one table to the other. Then if possible inside the table to show you the data types. That pictorial view is the schema. So at this point, it has nothing to do with our project. Does anyone have any other question? Does anyone have any other question?
Check the messages. There are questions in the messages.
Can we create the database in PostgreSQL, but do every other coding in Colab? Yes. It's just, yeah, you can. The most important thing is just connect to your database. Just connect. Though I've not done it before, but I think it's possible because all you need to do is just connect to your database. So it's possible. All you need to do is just go to Colab, import this. It's Colab. Obviously, you should have literally all the libraries, if I'm not mistaken. Import this, connect to your local database, and just try it out. It's something maybe you just try it out. No, I've not done it before. I've only been working from my local environment. I hardly use Google Colab unless I'm doing something online. So it should be possible. Please, does anyone have any other question? I'm going to stop recording so that the file will not be that big and the video will not be that long. So we are literally done. Like I'm done with what I wanted to show you. I'm done with what I wanted to show you. So let me just stop.
It's just the video we need now so that we can practice.